Someone is getting married, and I'm here to tell you all about the traditional British wedding. Hello everyone, my name is Anna English, this is English Like a Native, and in anticipation of the royal wedding, I thought this was a perfect opportunity to discuss the culture and the traditions surrounding a British wedding. Now this subject is huge. There's so much information that I could give to you, but I thought I would just give you a general overview of the British wedding. Now, before we dive on into this subject, I do want to give a huge shout out and a big thank you to our long-term sponsors, italki. italki is an online language learning provider, and being online, it means that the lessons are very convenient. Basically, you can take a lesson anywhere in the world at any time of the day or night, as long as you have a device and an internet connection. You can choose which teacher you would like to spend time with. I also like italki because they are very affordable. You should definitely check out their prices. And if you haven't previously signed up to italki, then by clicking on the link in the description box below, you will get $10 credit when you make your first purchase. So basically, you're buying a lesson and getting one for free. So if this does interest you and you want to improve your English or any other language that you're learning, which italki provide, then do click on the link in the description box below and take a look. Right, let's talk about weddings. When you meet the person you want to spend the rest of your life with, depending on your circumstances, you can choose from three options. You can either have a civil partnership, a civil marriage, or a religious marriage. But what's the difference? Civil partnerships are only available to same-sex couples. So two boys or two girls who want to spend their lives together can choose to have a civil partnership. It's very similar to a marriage, but there are a few differences. For example, adultery is not recognised as grounds for divorce. Interesting. Same-sex couples also now have the option to have a civil marriage or a religious marriage. Now, civil marriage and religious marriage are pretty much the same. It's just that a religious marriage contains religious content like religious songs. All things wise and wonderful, our Lord God made them all. And religious readings will be held in a place of worship like a church. The way it generally works with the majority of the people in the UK is that you marry someone that you fall in love with. You're free to choose who you want to marry and when you want to marry them. It's not uncommon these days for a couple to spend a lot of time together, sometimes years before marriage even is suggested. Many couples even live together for many years, and in some cases, like in my case, couples will have a child before they decide to get married. And actually, marriage isn't always a step that a couple decides to take. Some people don't believe that it's good for a relationship or even necessary to get married. And whatever decision that people make surrounding marriage, it's all accepted in the UK. We're very liberal and open-minded. We just want people to be happy. So who can get married? Well, there are three basic rules. Both parties have to be 16 or over. The second one is that you have to be available to be married. So you either have to be single or you have to be divorced from a previous marriage. So legally, you've been taken out of that marriage. Or a widow. You're a widow if your previous partner who you were married to is now deceased. If they die, you become a widow, in which case you're free to marry again. And finally, you cannot marry someone you are closely related to. No, 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 no. Now, from now on, I'm going to be referencing a heterosexual couple because that's what my knowledge base is and what my experience is. If there's anything you'd like to add that is more suited to your situation, then please do share it with us in the comments section below so we can all learn together. So, in a traditional heterosexual couple, in the old days, and still quite a lot now, but it is changing, it's expected for the man to propose to the woman. A woman can propose to a man, but it's traditionally done in a leap year. Don't ask me why. It's very strange. So traditionally, a man would propose to the woman. Now, in the old days, a man would first ask permission from the woman's father, or at least the woman's family, to ask if he could propose to the woman. These days, a man generally just goes straight to the woman and asks her. He will get down on one knee and he will present a ring, typically a diamond ring, and he would ask the question, "Will you marry me?" And then the lady gives her answer, either yes, no, or "I need some time to think." Something to note, a proposal is also sometimes referred to as asking for a lady's hand in marriage. So if she says yes, everyone's happy, the engagement is announced to the world, and everyone celebrates. There would normally be some form of engagement party, and then the planning starts. Of course, it depends on when you decide to book your wedding. Some people decide to have a very long engagement. I've known people who have been engaged for years and years and years. And there are two reasons for this. Perhaps it's because the timing to get married is not quite right because of illness or family issues or work perhaps. But also some people delay the wedding because weddings in the UK are very expensive. But once the date is set and everything is being planned, one of the first things to do is to send out invitations and find out which of your guests will be coming along. Now, invitations can be two-tiered. Some people are invited to the whole event, so the actual service of marriage, as well as the party and the event that happens after the marriage. Other people are invited just to the party afterwards, and this can be for a number of reasons. Perhaps the church in which you're deciding to marry in is very small and won't hold many guests. Or perhaps you have a very tight budget and you can't afford to feed everybody and to get everyone into the church on time, so you just invite extra people to come in the evening. As the wedding date approaches, there is a celebration that happens with both the bride-to-be and the groom-to-be. The bride will get together with her female friends and have a hen do. This is a party for the bride-to-be and her friends. And the groom-to-be will get together with his friends and have a celebration called a stag do. Sometimes this is one night, sometimes it's a whole day and evening. Some have a stag do which is a whole weekend. Some even have a whole week, which I think is a bit greedy, but each to their own. But the hen do and the stag do are designed to celebrate their last moments of freedom, their last moments of living as singletons before they tie the knot and become a married couple, bound to each other for the rest of their lives. When the big day arrives, the guests congregate. That means they get together and they become known as the congregation. So they congregate at the venue and they are there with the groom as well as his best man. So that's a special man, a best friend or a brother or someone he's chosen to support him on the day, look after him, and along with the ushers. And the ushers are basically helpers to help the congregation to find their seats and to help everything run smoothly. Now, seating in the venue will normally be split into guests of the groom on one side and guests of the bride on the other, leaving a walkway right down the middle known as the aisle. And the groom will stand at the top of the aisle with his best man, waiting for his beautiful bride to arrive. Once the guests are all seated and everyone is ready, then the bride arrives, usually in style, in a very posh car or a horse-drawn carriage. Just before the bride enters the venue, she gets together with her bridesmaids and page boys if she has them. She'll also be there with the father of the bride if she decides to go in with her father. Now, traditionally, the bride and father of the bride would enter together and first, followed by the bridesmaids. But these days, it tends to be the bridesmaids who go first. They walk down the aisle, everyone looks at them, and it creates a sense of anticipation. We can't wait for the bride. Then the music starts, and traditionally the music is Here Comes the Bride, or it's also known as the Wedding March. And they walk down the aisle to this music and everyone's like, oh, it's so beautiful. And she'll be wearing a beautiful white dress, sometimes an ivory dress or a cream dress, and in some cases they wear all sorts of colours, but traditionally it's a white dress. And she'll have a veil potentially over her face to cover her beauty until she arrives at the top of the venue, faces her groom, who will remove the veil and reveal her beautiful face. So then the ceremony begins. The bride and groom are stood at the altar with whoever is running the ceremony, and everyone else takes their seats. Now, there are a few particular points that everyone expects in a wedding that you should definitely look out for if you attend a British wedding. They are objections. Now, this always makes me giggle because it's such an awkward moment. During the ceremony, the congregation are asked, does anybody object to this wedding? Do you have any legal reason why you think these two can't be married? And everyone goes quiet and everyone looks around to see if anyone will do the dramatic thing of going, they can't get married because I love him, or because he's married to me. I've never seen anyone object to a wedding in the middle of a ceremony, but I'm sure at some point it must have happened. The exchange of vows. So this is a really lovely moment when the bride and groom face one another and read out the vows that they have decided to give to one another, the promises they want to make. This is always quite a special moment. And then, of course, the exchange of rings, which in every wedding I've ever been to, the exchange of rings has always been a hilarious moment. I guess because they get hot and nervous, their fingers swell and the rings don't always fit. So it's always a little bit of a struggle for them to try and get those rings to fit properly, which always causes a few giggles. Then once they've been pronounced man and wife, once it's official, then the groom will be told that he may kiss the bride. And there's a beautiful smooch, a snog at the front of the venue, and the whole congregation is like, yeah, it's love, it's amazing, it's wonderful, we're so happy. Each ceremony will also include a signing of the register. This is a legal requirement, so they can make the whole thing legal and official. And during this time, usually, because it's not that interesting to watch people signing official documents, normally there is a performance of some sort, a musical interlude. Someone might get up and sing or play the guitar, or there might be a nice track that's playing so everyone can have a relax and listen to the music. It's usually very nice. And then when it's all done and dusted, the bride and groom walk hand in hand out of the venue together. And this is where the congregation can go outside and throw confetti, or sometimes rice, over the bride and groom as they exit the venue. It depends on the venue though, because some venues now ban it because it makes such a mess. But yes, traditionally that's what you would expect. At this point, the photographs will happen. So when everyone is still looking fresh, there's a good amount of daylight, the photographers will come around, gather different groups of people together and make sure there are sufficient photographs of the day. While the other guests are waiting, there's usually a drinks reception and canapes going around so they don't get too hungry and too bored. Then they'll be asked to take their seats. Everyone will be seated according to the table plan, with the bride and groom on the top table, usually overlooking all of their guests. And then there'll be a meal. Now, this is called the wedding breakfast, the first meal after the marriage, the wedding breakfast. Now, as the rest of the day continues, there are a number of things that will happen. Firstly, most of the guests will receive a keepsake. This might be something like a tiny little charm or a coaster with your name on it, or a special handkerchief, or it's just a small gift to remind you of that special moment, that special day. Speeches. A traditional British wedding is never complete without a lot of speeches. Now, anyone can give a speech, but usually you have to have a speech from the groom, and the groom will normally say something wonderful about his new wife, thank the bridesmaids, thank everyone for coming. He has certain things he has to fulfill in his speech. Then you will always have a speech from the father of the bride as well, who will again say something wonderful about his daughter, tell the new groom to look after his daughter, that kind of thing. And then the most famous one is the best man speech. Remember, the best man is the groom's best friend or chosen person. He normally knows the groom better than anyone else. And this is normally, or should be, the comedy speech, the light relief. The time when the groom starts to feel very nervous, because normally the best man will tell lots of secrets and stories about the groom that the groom is very embarrassed by. Carrying on, and these are in no particular order, there'll also be a moment where the cake is officially cut. A traditional wedding cake will have lots of tiers. In the old days, you used to keep some of the tiers for a very long time. I think one of them you would keep until your first child's christening or something like that. Nowadays, it's normally just cut by the bride and groom, make the first cut, then it's separated out and everyone gets to enjoy a piece of cake. Then there is the first dance, where the bride and groom take to the dance floor. A very special song is played for them and everyone watches them have a little bit of a dance before everyone jumps onto the dance floor and boogies the night away. In recent years, we've seen a trend of brides and grooms learning a set routine and surprising their guests with a fully choreographed dance routine. In some cases, it's led to people being hospitalized because they try to do things after having a few drinks, which they probably shouldn't be doing. And then everyone just has a wonderful time, and there's usually some sort of book or something going around that people can sign or add their mark to, so that the bride and groom have a keepsake of their own, which has an input from all of their guests. And after all the celebrations have finished, the bride and groom usually go on a holiday known as a honeymoon. Whew! So lots of information there to remember. Now, like I said, this is traditional weddings, and more often these days, people are getting more imaginative and feel like they have more freedom to create a celebration that is tailored to them and their friends and their families. Now, if you're married, please do tell me in the comments box below, what was the highlight of your wedding? What's the one thing that you really loved during your ceremony or during the celebration of your wedding? And if you're not yet married, but you hope to be married at some point in the future, tell me the one thing that you really, really want for your wedding. Perhaps it's a particular venue, perhaps it's a particular person, or perhaps you want to have a certain band playing in your after party. But do open up and let me know your thoughts down below. If you found today useful, please show me your thumb. And if you're not already subscribed, then please do smash that big red subscribe button and the bell notification button so you don't miss any future lessons. Until next time, guys, thank you for joining me. Take care and goodbye.